Hello everyone, my name is Fidelma Brady and I am the Head of Education with Down Syndrome Ireland. Today I am delighted to welcome you to this pre-recorded information session on Down syndrome. We all know about the importance of including all students in our school. One of the biggest supports any school has are its students. And it is students, just like you, who can really make inclusion become a reality in your school. Teenagers who have Down syndrome are just like all other teenagers in that each of you is different. Just like each of you, a teenager with Down syndrome has their own way of doing things, has their own way of understanding things, and has their own way of interacting with others. Again, just like each of you, the goals for the teenager with Down syndrome are the ones listed on the slide there. We want them to become as independent as possible in their personal care and social lives, just like you. We want every teenager with Down syndrome to feel good about themselves, to develop self-identity, self-confidence and self-esteem, just like you. We want them to develop a network of friends, to have personal relationships and to develop leisure interests, just like each of you. And of course, we want to progress their cognitive development, their speech and language development, their academic skills, and prepare them for work, just like any other student in our school. Down syndrome is the most common cause of a learning disability identifiable at birth. It's a genetic condition. You and I were both born with two copies of chromosome 21. A baby with Down syndrome is born with 3 copies of chromosome 21 instead of the usual 2. Research shows us that students with Down syndrome learn in different ways to most other teenagers. And this then makes their learning needs different from most other teenagers and children. So let's just take a quick look at some of the different aspects. When we look at social skills, teenagers with Down syndrome can understand the meaning behind facial expressions and tone of voice. They will very, very quickly pick up on any negativity shown by others. Remember, they have good understanding of social behaviours, but they just might not have the language to explain how they feel. Or indeed, they might not have the language skills necessary to cope well and to negotiate appropriately some social situations. Again, just to stress, they do pick up on negative emotions very quickly. So it's always very important that we are aware of our facial expressions, of our tone of voice, of our body postures, etc., when we're communicating with a student with Down syndrome. When we look at motor skills, students with Down syndrome, yes, they may have difficulties with PE, or they may have difficulties with handwriting. But at the same time, they can use a mouse and a computer keyboard quite proficiently by the time they reach 11 years of age. Their speech and language is delayed, but always remember that learning to read will help them learn to speak. Developing their reading abilities will in turn develop and add to their language abilities and vocabulary store. We often refer to working memory as our short-term memory. It's just what you are using now to listen to and make sense of what I am saying. For students with Down syndrome, difficulties with their working memory can make it hard for them to process things that they hear, especially things that they just hear alone without anything visual to prompt them or support them. So leading on from this to look at visual memory and visual processing, we should always consider teenagers with Down syndrome as visual learners. They learn best by seeing things. Another area of difficulty that some, though not all teenagers, have difficulty with number skills, and their number skills are often quite delayed. Just like each of us, teenagers with Down syndrome, they can be affected by many different types of illness. Sometimes they can be more prone to disorders in hearing and vision. They can be prone to infections. They can more easily get colds or chest infections. And some children and teenagers have heart disorders. When we look at puberty, teenagers with Down syndrome are no different to any one of you. They will experience the same physical changes and the same emotional changes that each of you will experience during your adolescence as teenagers. And again, just like you, it's important that they learn as much as possible about this and learn as much as possible about the ways that their bodies are changing. And of course, just like every other person, it is so important that students with Down syndrome are able to take care of their personal hygiene. We look now for a moment at mental health. And look, we all talk to ourselves, whether we admit it or not. We talk to ourselves quite often, sometimes quietly, sometimes out loud. For a large percentage of people with Down syndrome, including children and students, all ages, they tend to talk to themselves. And some will even have imaginary friends. In virtually all cases, this is perfectly normal. Whereas some time ago, this was considered a serious mental illness, it is now generally accepted that self-talk is nothing more than thinking out loud. And as it said there on the slide, it serves an adaptive function by helping us to think about the various tasks and problems of our daily lives. It can help us put things in order. What do I need to do now when I have this finished? Some people will think that quietly in their heads. Some people will say it out loud. So it's perfectly normal. It's generally accepted now as a form of self-talk. Here we see on this slide the importance of hands-on experiences, not just for students with Down syndrome, but I think for all students. We should have hands-on experiences as often as possible. And the Chinese proverb is very good here. I hear and I forget. I see and I hear and I may remember. I do and I understand. So I'm sure we can often think about times when we heard something, when we were told to do something and we conveniently forgot about it. We can also think about times when we see something and hear something and there's a slightly better chance we might remember to do it. But we will remember all about it and we will understand how to do something and why to do something once we actually do it ourselves. The heading on the next slide is what is social development? So what do we mean by social development? We all need to have skills to interact with others. We need to show understanding and empathy for others. We need to behave appropriately with others and to have opportunities for leisure and recreation and opportunities to develop friendships with others. However, it is important for us to be aware that the teenager with Down syndrome might need more time and a little extra help to develop socially to the same level as many other children. While this happens, it is vitally important that we take particular note of the lines at the bottom of that picture. Pupils must adapt to the student with Down syndrome, not the student with Down syndrome adapting to other pupils. And that is so important. You, as students, must adapt to the student with Down syndrome in your class rather than having an expectation that the student in your class with Down syndrome should adapt to you. Because please remember, they just might not have the ability to do that. On this slide, you will see some of the things we do to be considered a friend. We spend time and do things together. We have fun, we make each other laugh. We share experiences. We can be considered to be on the same wavelength. Friends also take care of each other and we're loyal to each other. We accept each other's problems, we accept each other's bad habits, we accept each other's mistakes. We may have shared interests and activities, or we may not have shared interests and activities, but we can still be friends. The importance of friendship is it's genuine, and of course, friends will have a commitment to each other. Just like each of you need friends, just like that. So too does the student with Down syndrome. The student with Down syndrome also needs to be able to have people in their lives that they can say, yes, we do this. So what then can we do to be a friend to the student with Down syndrome? Well, first of all, we have acceptance. We need to accept the student with Down syndrome for who they are. Try to do fun things together. Talk to the student about things that you do. They might not necessarily do them or participate in the same activities, but talk to them about them. Remember too, it might be hard for you to understand what the student with Down syndrome is saying sometimes because of their difficulties with speech and language. But be patient when they are trying to tell you something. Maybe get them to show you what they're saying or to give you an example rather than talking about it, if you find that helps you understand better. There are times too that we might worry about the student with Down syndrome. Maybe somebody else is saying something about them and it's upsetting them and it's upsetting you. Or you see something going on that's not right, that you feel is not right, that you feel is not proper. And it makes you worried and it makes you anxious. Please, if you see anything like this happening ever, tell your teacher or another adult in the school. We have to realise that not everyone understands what it means to have Down syndrome. And sometimes, unfortunately, lack of knowledge can make other students and indeed other people, it can happen with adults as well, but can make them and lead them to tease and make fun of a student with Down syndrome. If you can, try and take that person aside and explain to them about Down syndrome. But if you feel you need help to do this, please ask your teacher to help you or get help from another adult. Always remember that the student with Down syndrome may have a great sense of humour. They may be very good company. They may really enjoy music, or they may be really good at sports. So do try to find out what they like or dislike. Always look at the problems the student with Down syndrome has overcome to get this far. Make sure you praise him or her to others. And always let other people know what the student can do. So as a friend, and as we try to be a friend, we can try and share fun activities. We can help each other to share and to cooperate. We can help each other to cope with disappointment or hostility. And we can share our worries and our pleasure. So it is with the student with Down syndrome. We can share fun activities with them. We can cooperate with them. We can help them to cope with hostility or with any disappointments. And indeed, we can share with them our own worries and things that give us pleasure. As you get older, you might want to find out more information about Down syndrome, and there's many ways you can do this. Ask your teacher to help you, or alternatively, check out our website, Down Syndrome Ireland, www.downsyndrome.ie, and there's a lot of information on that website that you will find informing and will be of help to you as you get older and you want to find more information. Finally, always try to remember a student with Down syndrome is a person first and is just like you. Please do always remember that. And remember always to use people first language. We should never ever refer to the Down syndrome student or the Down syndrome. We should always put the person first. So we refer to the child with Down syndrome, the student with Down syndrome, the man with Down syndrome, the woman with Down syndrome, but we never refer to the Down syndrome child, the Down syndrome teenager, the Down syndrome man, the Down syndrome woman, etc. And another very important thing to remember is that students with Down syndrome have the very same hopes, the very same needs, and the very same feelings as you do. So always keep that in mind. Remember, they are more like you than they are different. And just thank you for listening. Your teacher may now show you another video clip which will give you another little bit of information on Down syndrome. Thank you very much. Bye bye.